to the other place and stick it in the chat too.
So it's now live streamed, yay.
So it looks like we're connecting to YouTubies. It's so wonderful, you know, to have this technology, even when there's these glitches. It's so easy to forget the snail mail days of my healing work.
Seriously.
Okay, there we go. Okay, good. Looks like we're live. And I know we've had to go live on a different link than we had sent everyone. So we are going to give you a minute or so to catch up with us. And we'll go ahead and share this link a couple of places. So let me give it to you. I'm on so many tech things. Here we go. I'll give it to you here in the chat, Lisa.
Okay.
That's the new link if you want to share that anywhere. And I'm going to go open the other one. Here we are. We are here. All right, good. So welcome everyone. Happy Equinox. And what an exciting, what I love about the equinox is really actually one of my most favorite holidays. So this holiday, I ordinarily would be at a pyramid and we're having some interesting things with mosquitoes and Tangier fever or something like this. And we had no rain practically all year, and then we got a bunch of rain. So we go to a solar initiation at dawn at a specific pyramid where it rises through the temple door and comes and hits your forehead. And it is so epic that it's worth standing there at 5 a.m. being swarmed by mosquitoes, but they wouldn't let us go this year. So, I've had fun. We had Joan come and we were channeling her information from Egypt and all of the things that she's experiencing while she's there, the activation that she's been doing in the Temple of Isis. And we really started this conversation about the rise of the feminine because of the Greece trip that I'm going on. So welcome everyone. Akasha here, Nan Akasha. Thank you for joining me on the Infinite Show. We have the beautiful Lisa here today with us. And what we're going to do today is dive in deeper on the equinox, because you have 3 or 4 days before the equinox, which peaked yesterday, and 3 or 4 days after. So it's really like a hallway. It's like a week-long tunnel where you're moving in these very balanced energies. And what does it do? It gives you a little bit of release of tension. Maybe you see things a little more clearly, but what a beautiful time to talk about why it's so important for us to balance the masculine and feminine within us and within our minds, within our emotions, within all those levels of our Akashic body that still are holding on to old wounds or old blame or old fears. And so many of us are awakening to our intuitive gifts and the fears that come with those. So the persecution, the being burned at the stake, and all of the history we have all the way down of just being ridiculed or devalued. And what's happened since I started to look back into ancient Greece, which started to call me about, oh my gosh, not even 2 months ago. And I'm leaving in a few days and we're going to be there. I'm going to be there on the full moon. And then our group is going to come together. And we have a few sacred sisters that are going to go on this journey with me to go and awaken the land, to awaken the energies there, to bring the key codes that we have to awaken what is there for us and for the planet. And what happened was Gaia came forward and the oracle at Delphi, and they said, this is not just about balancing masculine and feminine within you, within the planet, understanding the difference between gender and divine masculine and divine feminine, what the purpose of those are, how you can purify your perspective of them. But this is about us plugging back into the navel, which is what Delphi was called. It was called the navel of the world. They even have a statue there that they had. And it meant you plugged your navel back directly into Gaia. And Gaia is the primordial goddess of creation of everything. She is the mother of all the planets and all everything. And so we are now plugging directly back into our own life force. And when the oracle became, it's only a woman, that was allowed to speak for Gaia or for the other gods and the energies. And when that happened, Delphi became one of the most wealthy places on the planet. Kings, heads of armies, ordinary people, everybody went there to get message from the oracle. And they had treasuries, they had wealth, they had riches, they had respect. So the natural, intuitive, divine feminine is what we are going to reawaken. That released on the planet. And this one thing that I'm doing is going to connect with the things Lisa's been doing, the things that Joan's doing, the things that others have been doing, many of us have been doing for years, to consistently and continuously go to these places and bring these energies back, because it is time that this divine feminine within us awaken. We trust our intuition. We access these higher frequencies that are available to us. We start to increase what's possible. And we remember that it's time for that part of us to deserve respect, to deserve wealth, to deserve caring, to deserve it really is respect. So that's part of our theme today. And we have today an Akashic Records expert, an amazing 2 best-selling books just this year Lisa has out. She's just been on Gaia TV, and many of you know her. She has a school of Akashic knowing, and she's got a class coming up soon that she'll let you know how to join that. And I know, because I've known Lisa for a few years now, that she loves travel. So we have that in common. And she loves to go places in a sacred way, like I do, not just as a tourist. Like, we like to see it, we take a picture, it's great, but I want to notice the energy, what's the history, what are the other lives, like what is here, and how important it is to actually do this consciously when we are light workers that are on this wave really ahead of most people waking up. So welcome, Lisa.
Thank you, Nan. It's always so fun to get to hang out with you and just talk all things sacred and all things Akashic and all things divine wisdom. So I'm thrilled to really dive deeper into the rebalancing of the divine feminine and the divine masculine, because over really the last 5 or 10 years, I have done so many readings for clients, and they ask about their purpose. And many of them had that really big kind of overview purpose of they've come to help rebalance divine masculine and divine feminine, because we know that the masculine has been so far out of balance for so many thousands of years that many, many, many light workers have come to work on this project in every way imaginable. So I'm sure we'll talk about some of those today too.
Yeah, it is true. At the core of everyone, even in different phases of your life, when you're young and you're looking for your career, or you're looking for love, or you're building a family, like you have those different focuses in different cycles of your life. There is a complete underlying thing right now of understanding there needs to be more meaning, that this mundane life, that following the rules and paying your bills and all this stuff is becoming not meaningless, but not the point.
Absolutely, because as the record keepers, of course, say, we have many purposes. And, survival is, well, of course, it's always on a basic level part of it, but really bringing our gifts and talents, because if you're watching, I know you are a light worker, and I know that you have many, many, many lifetimes, possibly, even 100 or more lifetimes of sacred service here on earth. And so bringing those gifts and talents back to humanity is one of our big purposes again. So in bringing balance of all kinds back to the earth, bringing balance to the divine feminine, divine masculine. And interestingly, the reason that I was so excited to do this with you, Nan, is that this equinox is really very much about that in specific, about balance, about masculine, feminine, right? So every equinox, every solstice is a little different, right? Our orientation is different, things are changing. So this is very much about actually balancing masculine and feminine. And so I was very blessed to spend a couple weeks in Scotland just about a year ago, and I'm actually going back in a month or two, because going to Scotland, and it's interesting, talking about kind of sacred travel, it was never on my, big bucket list. But what I realized is that Scotland holds the divine masculine energy. It is the Albion light body, which means that it is holding that vibration on the planet. And so within that sacred divine masculine, we went to many different divine feminine sites within the Albion light body. So activating the divine feminine within the divine masculine.
I just get chills.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because, of course, as channels, which we both are, of course, Nan, it's about asking, what am I going to do? What piece do I hold? What codes or keys do I have that I can use to activate some of these sites? What lifetimes, what past lives, do I have there? And so going to some of these places like the Isle of Iona, which is a very ancient divine feminine sacred site.
Very, very feminine.
Very beautiful. Yes. And so being able to go there and then go to Rosalind Chapel, which of course is part of the Rose line and part of this ancient divine feminine, which they often connect to Mary Magdalene and that lineage. And so going and being in the sacred energy and connecting really heart to heart with that line, with that energy, with those places, because whether you know it or not, we are really ancient wise souls, and we have codes and keys in our field that we have brought back to help to reactivate and to transform and to raise the vibration of the planet and to realign the ley lines and the grids of the earth. And so even unconsciously, many of the light workers are doing their work, even if it's kind of unconscious, right?
Yes. I have a friend, and she's, her husband or her children really aren't involved, but she is like on her path, right? And she goes, she said, they live here in Mexico. And she's told me, we're in Las Vegas at Christmas one year, like 2 years ago. And I was like, what? And they're not even American. And I'm like, what are you doing in Las Vegas? She goes, because my spirit guides told me that I have to go to the Grand Canyon and I have to be there on this day at this time. So I had to figure out why my family would want to come with me.
I love it, right? And I did this whole trip, which was fascinating, with my daughter, who is going to Edinburgh University after we left, with my husband, who is not outwardly spiritual, but holds a lot of deep energetic wisdom, part of my soul family, conscious or unconscious, right?
Yes.
He holds a lot of beautiful divine masculine energy of the love, of that being able to hold that grounded space. For me, being not the most grounded person in the world, it's a very important job to have those people in our lives, right?
Isn't it? It's so interesting. One of my clients is a human design expert, and so I'm going deeper and deeper into that. And she's doing a thing right now about, I'm not in it, about divine partnerships and how their makeup and your makeup, it's not the way we used to think of how they should match up. And it's so funny because in the physicality, I have way more energy, way more focus and all that stuff than Chris. He's a little slower moving, and especially since his seizure, although he's pretty good, he takes a little bit longer to process things and so on. But because of my design, he gives me energy. And I have to notice, oh my gosh, he's so fast in those areas. He consumes a lot of information. I can't. I don't like to consume a lot of other information. I like to be in my own world. There's a lot going on here, right? So, yeah. The other thing I want to do is I want to share with everybody is the concept that we have of divine masculine and divine feminine needs to shift, because it's still a little bit tangled up with the idea of gender. And we're not saying all men are evil if you're in a man's body, but we have seen on the planet the imbalance be manifested more through the men, because they come in able to hold more typically of that masculine energy. And then we've gone away from the consciousness. So we've been on this cycle of going deep, deep into forgetting. And that imbalance is not a blaming. That imbalance is an acknowledging, accepting what is, what's happened. There must be a reason for it. And here we are now. And now we're waking up to it. And it's quickly becoming inappropriate. And watching old movies becomes like, whoa, can't believe somebody said that, And so as that happens, we have to then realize how much that we've all suppressed the sacred feminine. But when you talk about Scotland being this divine masculine, and then my first thought was like, yeah, but my gosh, the depth of the femininity that's held inside of it, like you said, on some of these sites, that is the perfect definition of divine masculine and feminine. Divine masculine holds space, protects, builds, right? Builds what the divine feminine needs in order to come in, right? It's like this structure. And I've been getting chills up and down from my crown to my feet since you started talking about Scotland. Holy moly.
Right. And it really is true. So if we start to kind of go back historically, and we think that's, somewhere around, it feels like around 2000 BC right now is kind of how I'm hearing it. And of course, nothing happens overnight, right? They're long time periods. But for a very, very, very long time, the divine feminine was so honored because, of course, we are the creator beings embodied, right? We give birth to humans. Right? We do not exist without women. So there was a huge honoring. And then over time, it seemed to shift to the power, the physical energy, the ability to war and to take over and to own and then recreate worlds or countries or peoples. And so it went from, I'm going to say, even if it was an imbalance in the divine feminine at some point, but even at that point, I believe the divine masculine was still holding the space. They were keeping women safe. That would be way, way, way back where the men were always doing the hunting and the guarding and making sure we weren't, eaten by animals.
Yeah. And then revered and respected. Like there was, I'm not sure if it's Anthony Robbins or Tony Robbins or somebody like that, though, somebody who's like a little, more psychological, but I heard this little clip, like 4 minutes, about someone like him talking about men and women and the masculine and feminine energies. And I was like, and I was so fascinated because he made it come to life about what it feels like to be a masculine watching a feminine. And it's not that all women have to wear flowy dresses and all that. Okay, so that's not what I want to say. But he was talking about how the feminine is able to be in flow and the masculine can't. So they see that and go, wow, and you get to be spontaneous. And you're like, come on, let's dance. And you're flowing and you're not here holding structure, feeling this, feeling that, right? And doing. And so we're drawn to that. It's so amazing. And the reverence and the beauty and the love that they perceive then goes back. It's like, oh, you're so beautiful. And then you feed back to it. And then that desire to come in and come around, and then the feminine having to become receptive again, because we've all shut down. It hasn't been safe. It hasn't been safe to be a light worker or a healer. It hasn't been safe to be a woman. Many places still it isn't. We've gone through all the phases of not having the vote and yada, yada, yada. And we want to take all of that, not be like, remember this, but be like, let's let that go and compost it, let Gaia compost that and bring us back the wisdom so that we can hold that space. But for me, I know it's been, oh my gosh, 26 years, probably 27 years since the number one guidance from my inner guides has been, I don't even remember what they started saying in the beginning, connect to your feminine, connect more to your feminine, connect more to your feminine. I'm feminine. Look, I'm feminine.
Right? Well, and I mean, I remember that because I was a production director at an ad agency back in the 80s. And you know, what most of us did is we took on the masculine mantle. Even if you look back at women wore, suits with skirts, right? We were trying to be men. We were running all of that masculine energy, all of the doing. And as well, I did the same thing until it literally made me sick. Right. So a lot of women had that experience, I think, back in the 80s, even 90s, right, where we were trying to emulate the workforce. Yes. And some people still do, depending on where you are in the country or the world, right? You're being that what we perceive energetically, and it really is not how the human bodies are built as much. But the truth is, to me, what the record keepers are always saying is that it's all about balance, however we balance it. Everyone has a masculine channel and a feminine channel in every single body. Yes, and bringing those into the body, that you're in. And it doesn't matter, to be a balanced human, to be able to be loving and kind and supportive and caring and live in your heart, even if you're in a male body, even though that has not been the recent archetypes. So it's recreating really our reimagining our archetypes so that we're seeing men as caring, supportive, loving, kind, gentle, right? All of the heart opening, all of that, as well as holding space, sometimes being the grounding, being kind of that strength. And again, doesn't mean that women can't be very strong, physically powerful, physically all of the do that for themselves and be the linear. I've got a very weird linear, logical, organized brain, which is a little odd for me. We didn't seem like a likely thing, considering I spend most of my life in the Akash, right? But it's about balance. And one of the things the record keepers said to me really not that long ago that was a little startling, they said, until we can balance really all aspects of the world, we will not be able to really ascend into the fourth and the fifth dimension as a world, right? As a humanity, until we can balance masculine and feminine energy and stop the old patterns we have. Yeah. And again, a lot of the work that I love to do is to do group healing around kind of unwriting some of those programs on how a woman is supposed to be and a man is supposed to be, because yes, of course, it was made up, probably, or, not that long ago, 50, 100 years ago, somewhere in those times, we made new choices. So it's not even really old ancient wisdom. It's just kind of, a bunch of BS and programming that we can unwrite and untangle and unearth from the earth. And that is one of the amazing things to be able to do. It doesn't need to be done in the sacred sites as much, but sometimes in those just like countries like Scotland or France, of course, holds the divine feminine again. And then there's all these huge cathedrals and very powerful divine masculine spots, points, right? Karnak, right? There's a huge stone circle in France called Karnak, right? So,
yeah, I've been there. It's ancient stones. Yeah, they're big and they're just like, in the countryside, you just drive through the road and there they are. We got out, we walked around, there was nobody there, but there was enormous. And Karnak is a temple in Egypt, in case anybody doesn't know that. So yeah, that was repeated there. Well, and there's pyramids all over the world. I think people used to think there were only a few pyramids. I've had people come to my retreats here who said they didn't know there were pyramids in the Mayan here on the Yucatan Peninsula. There's more pyramids on the Yucatan Peninsula down into Honduras than any place on the planet. It's absolutely mind-boggling, and they're under the water, and they're coming alive, and the crystals are coming alive that, you know, that were worked with by the ancient civilizations that held information. And I think all of this is like we've been walking through the dark, stumbling along, right, with a half of a, you know, like a half of a light bulb on. And being like, shh, be quiet. I don't want your wisdom. I can't listen to you. Bad things will happen to me. So that idea of balancing the sacred feminine and masculine within yourself, it isn't just on the planet or when we go to these sacred places, like you said, it is finding those places within you that you're perpetuating the belief that, and the reality is that there's two things that I've discovered through all the information that's channeled through me in the last couple of years, is that when we talk about an entity or a concept like Gaia is used often to mean the planet Earth, but Gaia is actually, in Greek myth, the primordial divine feminine mother who birthed the planets and the elements and the elementals and the light, and then the first peoples, and then so on and so on, and the gods, and then, you know, the story goes down like that. And so she didn't need masculine. She was balanced within herself. Although we perceive her as feminine, she wasn't a half of a whole. The energy that's needed to form anything in form has to have duality. People are like, we don't want any more duality. Okay, well, then you're going to fall through the floor. Right? Your clothes won't stay on your body. Right? So anything in form has to have resistance. Right? We have to have that duality. So it isn't bad to have it. Everybody does have it, like you said. And so when you're coming to this particular equinox, and share quickly too, when you went a couple years ago, kind of during the pandemic, you ended up going to 3 continents and activating 3 different places, and you didn't really know. Like, and I like that's what you said, is like you might be going on a trip and you're doing the trip because it's a honeymoon, or you're doing the trip because it's your family's birthday or something, right? And stop a minute before you go, because there's no way your soul is calling you to do that without there being along the way magic doors, magic people, magic mentors, information, skills. You're not going to come back the same person, even if you're going to Disneyland. So check in and see why you might.
Right, because my daughter had gotten accepted to the University of Edinburgh to get her master's degree there, and so I'm like, okay, I guess we're going to Scotland. You know, yay! What's there? What's, you know, and then I, you know, was talking to some friends of mine who, of course, are all, you know, wonderfully galactic, you know, and it's like, oh, Albion Light Body, oh, sacred sites, oh my gosh, the Callanish standing stones out there on the Isle of Lewis and Harris, which is out in the outer Hebrides. So it was like almost a 3-hour ferry ride just to get out there, and they were so phenomenal. I hugged every one of the 60 plus stones. I didn't count them all, but there's like, and I was told to hug every one of them. So we were exchanging energy, because they all are crystalline stones. They have, you know, crystal and mica, and, you know, really this
wisdom. They've been there. They
stones,
know.
right?
Yeah.
They hold codes, they're holding keys. Yeah. So I'm getting all these downloads, and I'm giving them whatever I have to offer them, being a, you know, ancient soul traveling around with all these energies also. And then within that country, again, I've gone to Rosalind and to Iona and to the standing stones. And so it's almost like we have the ability with our physical bodies to move energy around. And so back in September of 2020, I was called to go to Egypt. Now, I've long known that I'm very Syrian, from the dog star, Egyptian gods and goddesses from Egypt, I mean, from Sirius to Egypt as actually big ancient beings in the early days. So I always wanted to go back. I knew I had a lot of physical lives in ancient Egypt. And so this trip popped up, and it
during
was
the pandemic.
During the
first year of the pandemic. I remember going, You're doing what?
Yeah. Well, and it was a bit of a challenge because again, so it was Egypt had closed down in like March of 2020 with the pandemic, and now it's September and it's just opening up. And there's barely a flight. I think it took us 4 flights to get there from California. You had to have a, whatever certified. I had to, my record keepers were like, just get the vaccine so you can go, right? Because you had to have your little papers within 48 hours that you didn't have COVID. I mean, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it was like, really
I'm
intense.
like, who cares? Whatever. It'll happen. All good. Easy peasy. That's the easy part. So don't let the paperwork stop you. It's my theory.
That's
right?
what they said. Yeah.
Right. Don't let the paperwork stop you. But here we go. And there was 20 of us on this beautiful tour. We were the only tour in any of these 18 sacred sites that we went to. We had the sites to ourselves. We literally could sit for an hour, 2 hours, up to 3 hours sometimes in some of these amazing sacred sites with no other tourists.
I knew the minute you told me you were going, I was awash with envy. I mean, just awash with envy, because that's my thing. I want to go when there's nobody there. And when I went with my first mystery school teacher, we got in every temple, we got in the pyramid for 4 hours, 2 days in a row, nobody else allowed. And that's very rare. Yes. Now I'm organizing a trip to Egypt where we're doing this. We're getting like sacred time between the Sphinx paws and all that. But I knew when you said you were going, holy mackerel, it's going to be profound, because here's the other thing. During that shutdown, all the pyramids here where I live, where I go to all the time, I was like, oh, I can't get to my pyramids, but I'm connected to them. And I was watching the ocean in front, how fast it healed, how many fish appeared because people in boats weren't in it. I was talking to the jungle and to the pyramids and the spirits, and it was profound, the healing that was happening. The ancients were coming back to the sites, and I knew the same thing was happening there. All of those sites, everything, whether it was nature or temples or whatever on the planet, had this breather from humans. Right. And that was like a door where, whoosh, more energy could come in. So there were so many reasons I was like, Lisa, holy cow.
And it was so phenomenal, right? To have this time and this space in these sites, to just be in it. And energetically, it was almost funny. It's like, I felt like I came back with so many like codes and energies and information that it took a full year to start to, I think, I don't even know if it completed downloading within the year, but pretty close. But it took a year. It wasn't instantaneous. There was so much coming through that it was phenomenal. And during that year then, we did that in September. We were in Egypt. And then in January, my husband and I were in the Yucatan. And he had never been to Chichen Itza. And so we went to Chichen Itza, and that was so cool because I hadn't been there in like 35 years or something. Yeah. And so that was phenomenal. And again, not crowded because people were phenomenal.
Yeah, because now there's like 10,000 people a day or
right.
more.
And so they were.
So again, you had this special access to the energies that were so pure. I wanted to be the first person in the door at as many of the pyramids near me as possible. I literally was checking almost daily. Are you open? Are you open? Are you open? Are you sure you're open? Could you drive by and ask the dude who lives at the little guard gate if they're open? And I was so obsessed with it because I wanted that pristine energy. I literally knew that I needed to be the first one to enter at least one of these sites and to receive that, to be a part of whatever that experience was. So
I mean, it really was such a gift and a blessing, and none of it was planned. I didn't think this out. It was just so happened that, well, Egypt popped up and I said yes. And then my husband and I, we celebrate our anniversary on New Year's Eve. It was a blue moon on New Year's Eve when we got married 33 years ago now. And so we usually like to take a trip like, the first couple of weeks of January. It's just a good, perfect time. And so we had planned to go to the Yucatan. We love the Yucatan. We've been many times. We've been to Coba and I forget
Uxmal?
I've been to Uxmal, he had
Tulum,
not, but we had been Kobe and Tulum, and he'd never been.
Ekbalam.
Yeah, he had never been to Chichen Itza though. So he said yes this time, and I'm like, perfect, yay! You know, there's something energetically. So within 9 months, which is also an interesting cycle, we did Egypt, and then Chichen Itza, and then we went to Bosnia, and we went to
Oh,
the
that's right.
Bosnian pyramids in Bosnia, and that was phenomenal too. We arrived again, no one's there, of course. So we're walking up the little, wooden steps to get up to the street, to the entrance, to the little place where the entrance to the Bosnian pyramids, there are tunnels underneath. And I stepped up, and there was a gentleman walking by, and he stopped and he looked at me and he said, hello. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're Dr. Samir. Like, like telling, you're the founder of this place. He's like, yes, where are you from? And I'm like, California. He's like, oh, let me show you around. And me and my husband and our friends we were traveling with, he showed us around for half an hour until someone came and said, you're late for a meeting. But that was phenomenal. So all of these energies, it's like if you imagine energetically just moving codes around the planet, right? To activate, shift the energy, open different doorways. Because part of what we're doing is we're reactivating a lot of this dormant energy from these kinds of pyramids and places that, even though we've been visiting them, now is such a powerful time. We're finally in the age of Aquarius. The alignment to the galactic center and to the sacred heart of Gaia are aligned and awakened and activated. So we are more activated than ever before in our lifetimes,
Yeah, definitely. And we couldn't even have conceived this. I know when I learned the Mayan calendar and the Mayan pyramid, the 9-step pyramid, and that they each represent, eons of time and billions of years of time, and how this whole construct has created, and humans didn't even come in until about the 5th level. And then, but because they're smaller, it's shorter time to evolve, because the base has been built for us. And the top is unity consciousness. And we technically got here around 2012, but we were behind. We're a little dragon, right? It's just like, when's something going to happen? What's going to happen? I felt something, but it doesn't seem like it's happening to everybody else, right? So now we're really feeling, even muggles are feeling the shift and everything that's happening. So it's so profound, because I think about when I went to Egypt, and then you went to Egypt, and then someone else, but we went consciously, we went sacred, because I've learned to be able to tune it out. But I'll be at a sacred site here, hopefully before anybody else shows up. But then people will tromp around, and I'm not sure they're even paying attention to one little bit of it. They're just, Martha, what are we going to do for lunch, while they're stomping up the pyramid? And then look over here, take a picture of me. Okay, well, I didn't like that coconut earlier. I was like, I want to say, shut up for 1 minute and feel where you are.
Right.
I'm so amazed that people can walk through the energies that are there, even in just a beautiful place, and be so completely disconnected. So that awakening can be something that somebody may walk through, where you just awaken something. You left your key codes, you pick something up, that site, that tree, that walkway right now has a different energy that's starting to be released from it. And somebody walks through it and they pick something up. And suddenly now we are truly the dominoes that are connected. When I see you go to these different sites and not know why, right? Anybody, or even if we do know why, it's what you do there, what happens there. But it's also like connecting the dots, like we're creating this grid of light, and that ability.
So important, right? To just be like your little feet on the earth, because this is the blessing, right? We have feet to put on the earth, or, we have bodies to plant on the planet. And we can be like, I can just sit here. Like, so I'm going back to England in November, because we didn't do England before. My daughter's graduating from the University of Edinburgh. We're going back for her graduation. And so I said, this time we're going to Glastonbury and Avebury, and we're going to Wales, and there's many standing stones and sacred sites in Wales as well as in the Lake District. I mean, of course, all over England. And so
And
I just
waters.
start searching out sacred sites, and then I go and hug a lot of stones.
I do too. I've got to touch everything, hug everything, even if it's raining, even if it's whatever. Yeah. And there's some beautiful places in Wales. I went with my friends that were like wells, I think they call them, with water, like
Yeah.
sacred wells, sacred places of healing wells and stuff. We went in one where you could stand in it, you could get up to your knees, I think. And yeah.
If you're in Glastonbury, there's the Chalice Well, which is a beautiful sacred place that we'll go to, of course, and all of those things. But you'll have to let me know some of the places in Wales that you went to.
I want to see. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Stones and sacred sites and places, right? Because that's and the family just wants to go see cool stuff, and so they just are like, whatever, Mom, we'll follow you wherever you want to go. So it's just this beautiful kind of gift to me.
I love it. And gift to your family too, because they don't even have to know what you're doing or even care about Mom activating all that stuff. Sure, Mom, we're gonna be at the pub, and you know that you're doing it and it's happening for them too, and they don't even need to know.
They're feeling it. They're like pretty sensitive, so they go to the sacred sites and hang around. They might not hug all the stones, but maybe this time I'll get them to hug them, because Avebury, those stones are huge, right? So they're really fun.
You could get a few of you around it like that.
I know. So very exciting. So that's really, it's about balance, right? And those are such beautiful, fun ways to help rebalance divine feminine, divine masculine.
Yeah.
To bring that greater balance into our world in so many ways. So,
well, would you guide us in something for today's activation? But first, before you do, will you tell us about your books and your class that's coming up and everything that's exciting happening this year, so people can find more of you?
Right. Thank you. So I would love to. This is always tricky because I have my funny little faux background. But so my most recent book is called Kasha. Let me see if
there it is. Yeah.
It's like I have to. I know it's always so funny because of those silly backgrounds. But anyway, Akasha is all about it's part of the Common Sentience book series, which I am very, very honored to be a part of. My book is the 11th book in the series of really these mystical books. And so I talk about what the Akashic records are, who the record keepers are. There are 20 stories that some of my students have experiences they've had in the Akashic records, and other people. There was a call for stories, and so people wrote their experience of accessing the Akashic records and how it's transformed their life. And then in the third part, I actually also teach my 5-step wisdom prayer system. So that is very fun. So Akasha just came out in August. So that's my newest. And then Your Soul Has a Plan came out in January. So both of them came out this year. Again, you could always look for me, Lisa Barnett, on Amazon. They're all there. But Akasha, if you go to my website at akashicknowing.com, so you can see that, akashickknowing.com, I offer 4 free gifts with the purchase of my book, Akasha. And so that's kind of fun. So that has been very, keeping me super, super busy this year. As well as all the sacred travel. And then I've got an upcoming workshop. I love to teach my 5-step wisdom prayer system. It is a beautiful kind of simple 5-step system to take you into your own Akashic records so that you can more easily be guarded, and held in this unconditional love of the Akasha. And so I have a workshop that's starting October 16th, and that will be it's like 4 classes, and yeah, so 4 classes, 4 hours each day over 2 weeks. And so that
Like
is
2 weekends or something?
I'm doing it on Mondays and Wednesdays right now. I did a week, so I'm going to start teaching quite a few a year again, and then so that I'll, break it up. Sometimes they'll be longer, less hours. Sometimes they'll be weekends. Sometimes they'll be weekdays. Because we're all unique. So I popped that in the chat. I don't know if that
I
goes
got it.
to
Yep.
YouTube. Yeah.
Sticking it up
Um,
here.
So yeah, so that is the next one that is coming up. If people want to jump in and join and learn how to access their own Akashic records to really transform and empower your life in a
Yeah.
bigger way. So
Yes, yes, I do think it's really powerful. It's so funny that I never really used the words much. I learned what the Akash was and all these different things, and really learned in a lot of the old English books, like the old books that talked
Mhm.
funny compared to now. And then was finally received my spiritual name, wouldn't hear it for a long time. And I was like, okay. And I still wouldn't really say the word. And so it's so interesting. But yeah, there's this whole side of you that why not know how to access more of you? Sounds like a fabulous idea to me. Direct access, guys, direct access.
Direct access, because really the thing is that we are such ancient souls. We have lived so many millions of lifetimes, right? Hundreds and hundreds on Earth. We're all galactic star seeds. We're all ancient high vibrational, beings of light. And when you can start to access that wisdom, actually feel, remember, know that truth, it really changes who you are. It changes how you see yourself, because we move from being these little humans in these little frail bodies to realizing we are these huge divine souls filled with gifts and talents and so much remembrance, and then we can start to really bring that into the body, really activating and waking back up those codes, so that when you go to these sacred sites, they're available to connect to some of these beautiful spots on the planet, whether it's where you live. It could be activating ley lines and grid lines at the ocean where you are, or in the mountains, or through a tree, or standing stones.
Yeah.
Again, thousands and
you're
thousands.
In Shasta right now, right? You're in
Me?
Shasta?
No, I'm in Marin. I'm just north of San Francisco.
Oh, I thought you were in Shasta. Okay. I was telling everybody, oh, you're coming from Shasta. Well, that's okay. Marin's lovely.
Yeah.
San Francisco is one of my. So yeah, it's fun. I was noticing, I went to get dressed for today's call, like seconds, minutes before you and I connected before, because I was swimming in the ocean. And I just pulled something out of the closet, and I pulled these two colors, and I went, oh yeah. That's what I said. I'm looking at you, and I look like a little bit like your background and your
right, exactly.
I was like, ooh, got
all the water. I'm a very, Syrian water world. I'm like mermaid. I think I've got my little mermaid.
I saw your mermaids.
Right.
I saw the mermaids immediately.
Oh, right. All the mer energy. Love it.
When I bought my house here, I wasn't planning to ever own another house again. It's a big, long story. I used to own a gazillion houses and renovate them and all that. And then it lost everything in a bankruptcy and a divorce, and just wandered the world. And I was happy not owning anything, very happy. And this all started to come to me. And I'm like, no. It was like, yes. So all I did was I would stand on the beach wherever I was living, renting. And I would just go, I'm ready and willing and open and receptive to connect to the land, the sanctuary. Where is my sanctuary? Where is the land that I'm meant to be, to do my work for that land, for that area, for me, for whatever it is? And that was the only thing I really connected to that point. And renovating the house and putting in stuff and landscaping, all that stuff, that was the superficial part, because it was working with the energies of the land. So I walk and talk to it every day all the way down to the beach, and then I get in and I I heart weave with the water, and the crater which killed the dinosaurs is right out here, and the sun and the waters and the mermaids and the dolphins. There's actually dolphins out there, but I do the mermaids. So I saw your mermaids
I'm
immediately.
going to get down there one day, Nan. We're going to do something together.
Absolutely.
Maybe
Yeah.
next year, or the year after. Time is flying like crazy. So
It is. I know. Next equinox right around now would be really good.
yeah, maybe we'll think about next year. Anyway, we'll talk about that. Absolutely. So what I was hearing earlier is to do just a beautiful kind of empowering rebalancing of the masculine and feminine channels within our bodies. Because the record keepers are saying this is the place to start, right? There is so much power in our physicality. We really did, most of us light workers are probably going to be like, really, are you sure? We really did get so excited about being here now. This is a big deal for us to be here now. And so balancing masculine and feminine within the body is a beautiful place to start. And then, of course, then we do it in our relationships in the world, and then it starts to expand out. And I believe it will be through these sorts of simple processes, as well as these, bigger activations around the world, but through these simple processes of starting with ourselves, that it will ripple out into the world. And over the next, who knows how many years, it might take 10, it might take 50. The record keepers always kind of laugh, and they're like, divine timing, y'all are not the quickest. So we'll see, But this is the place to start. So this is a tool you can use every day, or I like to do it kind of once a week, just to remind myself that I hold both divine feminine and divine masculine energy, their channels. And so the visual I use is just imagining your chakra system as it goes down, your sixth chakra in your forehead, and fifth chakra in your throat, and then fourth chakra in your heart center, and, third solar plexus, and second mid belly, and first the root chakra, and so I imagine two channels that just touch the chakra system, running on either side, masculine and feminine. And then we're going to create a gold infinity symbol, and we are going to balance them right through each chakra. So we're balancing the channels, we're balancing the chakras. So that's the description. And now you can just sit back and close your eyes. I actually like to have my feet on the ground. So let's just start by growing some nice grounding roots from the bottom of our feet. We actually have feet chakras also. So we open our feet chakras, and we imagine that there's these beautiful energetic roots of you growing down into Gaia. I like to imagine that they're growing down 2 feet or 3 feet, 4 feet, 5 feet, just getting nice and grounded, and letting that root system expand out around you. And then I create a tripod grounding system. So we've got our 2 feet, and then we have a grounding cord from the base of the spine or back of the root chakra, however you imagine it. I like a nice wide grounding cord tail, and I imagine it goes all the way down and wraps around the crystalline heart core of Gaia. So we get to wrap our little tail around her, hug her, and love her up, and ask her, she is a sentient being, ask her for her help and support in staying grounded and in our bodies as we do this expansive work today. We thank her for all she does as she is awakening and helping us to all awaken. And so now we'll come back up into our body, up into our 6th chakra. So let's start by imagining your 6th chakra in the center of your forehead. I kind of pictured about 3 inches across. And then there's a masculine channel and a feminine channel that run down, touching either side. And we just create a beautiful gold infinity symbol filled with unconditional love, divine liquid light, the highest energy of you. And it touches the left channel, flowing right through your sixth chakra, touching the right channel, balancing the sixth chakra. And that's very much about the mental levels and how we see the world. So we want to bring balance into our view of the world, letting go of right and wrong, good and bads, knowing that we are here creating a beautiful world of balance, energy, balanced ideas and concepts that help to bring everyone in the world into a balanced place where we're creating the beautiful creative and linear energy. Takes everything, both aspects of masculine and feminine, to create the wisdom and the tools that will heal our planet, that will transform this earth. We just let that gold infinity symbol run, continuing to balance masculine and feminine channels. And we're going to move down to the fifth chakra, to our throat. So imagining activating your fifth chakra in your throat, again, seeing those channels touching the chakra and creating another gold infinity symbol. So we're balancing our communication out into the world, allowing ourselves to speak our truth, which is often considered more masculine, with love and ease, compassion and grace, more of the divine feminine energies. So balancing divine masculine, divine feminine energies so that we can communicate into the world the higher ideas, concepts, faculties, helping again to heal the world with our communication. And as that gold infinity symbol continues to run through our fifth chakra, we drop down into our heart center, fourth chakra, and creating a gold infinity symbol, left channel to right channel, masculine to feminine, bringing our heart center into balance so that we can express the love, the divine love, the unconditional love, compassion, the forgiveness, the energies that will truly heal our planet. Stepping more fully into our ability to be that love, to be that compassion, to be that forgiveness in the world. And so the infinity symbol continues to run left channel to right channel through our fourth chakra. And we drop down into our third chakra, which is your solar plexus, creating a gold infinity symbol in your third chakra from left to right. So third chakra, beautiful energy. Often we consider it sometimes about power in the world. But the way the record keepers talk about it, it's more about creating and manifesting your gifts out into the world. So often the male has used it by creating through power and doing and drive. And the divine feminine has created through ease and grace and flow and alignment. And so we want to rebalance all of this phenomenal creative energy. And really it's about creating the life that your soul has come to create, that your soul and your heart desire in balance. So it does take being in that flow, receiving the intuitive guidance, listening to your body and following much of that energy and those feelings, as well as getting out of your chair and doing in the world in some way or another, whether it's sacred travel or creating a sacred business that you would like to share with humanity. So there is a beautiful balance of being and doing in this creative energy of the third chakra of creating our new earth. And now we'll drop down into our second chakra, kind of that middle, little lower middle belly. And a lot of our emotions are stored in that energetic space. And so again, balancing masculine and feminine, balancing the high vibrational emotions of love and joy and peace with some of the lower vibrational energies where we've been stuck in the world. So we're raising the old vibrations by kind of energetically balancing, clearing, releasing, and deleting the old fears, the traumas, the lack, the doubt. All of those are just kind of old low vibe energies that we're leaving behind as we're moving into the higher vibration of knowingness and clarity, divine wisdom, right? Divine masculine and divine feminine wisdom in our bodies of peace and joy and love and awakening. So that always feels so lovely as we move out of some of the lower energies into the higher and balance those through the masculine and feminine channels. And then we drop down into the root chakra, again, balancing golden infinity symbol, left channel to right channel, releasing much of the old. Again, a lot of our old survival energies are stored in the first chakra. So we're asking our record keepers to help us clear and release and just let go of those as we are literally rising above them. So we're moving out of a place of having to work hard to clear, release, heal, heal, heal. It's now about just knowing, and through our claircognizance, our knowingness, our awareness, our higher vibrational energies, we are rising above and beyond those lower traumas and pains. And they just fall away. They naturally dissolve and are recycled for the highest good of all. So we ask our record keepers to help that to happen for everyone through all of this. The first chakra, letting go of any of the old survival, emotional pain and trauma and energies that have held us down or held us back. And we bring in the beautiful divine feminine, divine masculine energy of beingness and flow and of doingness and creativity in the world. Balancing all of our energies through our body. And again, from this beautiful root chakra, we reactivate or become aware again of our grounding cord. It's connected to the center of the earth, to the core of Gaia. And again, we're asking Gaia to recycle any of this energy that is being released through your body as we're doing this beautiful visualization. It just gets to get kind of released down that grounding cord tail in the core, and it just is recycled because our beautiful Gaia is able to do that with ease for us. And we give great thanks for the help from Gaia, from the help and the support and the love and the wisdom from the Akashic record keepers. Beautiful. And we just close our records and come back as is comfortable, opening your eyes. And these energies can continue to run in our body in this balanced way as we go through our day. Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful. That's a wonderful thing is that I always teach my students, then say, I ask this to continue as long as is optimal for my highest good. And you don't necessarily have to sit there, during the treatment.
Right?
Yeah.
right? We
Beautiful.
hold these energies and be, in our life. And this is one of the things that the record keepers have been saying, and really through the teachings that I do, is teaching these sorts of simple, easy tools. We can sit down for 5 or 10 minutes a day, or maybe you do this one once a week or whenever you're called, and you activate that. And then, right, we give great thanks. We just ask that it continue as long as in our highest and best good, and on we go, right?
Yeah,
So
and then you just move on, and it's a little bit, if you maybe use the mindset of Western medicine, like I just took a pill and I trust that it's going to work, so I'm not going to worry about it anymore. I'm going to go. Like I just did this and I know that it's doing the best thing for me, so I'm going to assume that and then be present in my life. And then what's fun is notice, because of the equinox energies, and we're going to have a full moon in a few days, and this is a really beautiful time to do this balancing. So thank you so much for sharing that. It was delightful. I'm like, ooh, yay.
thank you. Well, right. And again, we do this at these times because when we get together and a whole group of us are rebalancing the energy within our body, it's a collective energy, and it's being amplified by the equinox and the full moon. And so we are really expanding our own work out into the world in this way. So thank you, Nan, for inviting me to do this with you.
Yeah, thank you. It was so much fun, so delightful always. Thank you for everything you're doing. And I can't wait till when the stars all find the spot and we do something together. I don't know what's going on. I mean, I love Scotland. I've been there. I'm supposedly part Scottish. I was adopted, so they were so told I was German, Scotch, Irish, and most of the time I went around saying I'm Italian and Greek because I way more relate to that. But I've been to Scotland a few times, and then when I went with my partner Chris, he's got some Scottish lineage that his family's quite proud of. It was a whole other experience. It was moving and emotional and amazing and freezing cold. But but wow, I mean, I that was quite profound when you were talking about it. I started getting chills, but then they started on my arm, and then they went from the top of my head down, and they just kept going. And cold, like I started shivering. So I don't know what that means, but we will see.
We'll see, right? So yeah, we'll see. It'll be fascinating to go back a year later and to do even a bigger trail. We're not going to get to the Callanish Stones because that's quite a little project, but we will definitely be at Rosalind Chapel again. And, we'll see what other standing stones, because there's so many, right?
Yes.
And Wales and like I say, Avebury and Chalice Wells. And so again, reactivating and receiving and right and giving, as we do always when we're out there in the world, giving and receiving, and knowing that the universe has its own plan, and we're in it for the fun.
Yeah, we're the little pieces going around the game board. Woo, woo, woo.
Right.
Hey, go to the left. Come on, ladders and chutes and ladders. Okay, well, thank you so much, sweetie. Happy equinox, happy full moon. Love you so much. Congratulations on everything. Make
Thank
sure
you.
that everyone goes to akashicknowing.com, right?
Yes.
And you will find the course, you will find the books, you'll find and the free gifts too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
perfect.
Thank you,
Okay.
everyone. Yes.
Namaste. Thank you, everybody. I really enjoyed doing this little mini series with you guys. It was, as everything, intuitively guided to start to do this. I was having the dolphins wanted me to channel them more, and I just couldn't. I was doing them. I mean, it was fun, but it was like, I'm in Greece. I'm absorbed by Greece. I'm walking in my dreams with the Greek gods. I'm like, I can't do anything else. It's been going on for 6 weeks now. So the rise of the sacred feminine being something that we've been aware of, but the beautiful realization that's come through, that between the healing centers that we're going to be going to, the ancient healing centers, which were called Asclepions, the god Asclepion. So I was thinking about this male container, this masculine, feminine, and how you have to really be careful with myths to not get caught up in Zeus chasing all the women and all this. Like, what's the point? The symbol behind it isn't like men are evil, right? because then you have a demigod who then goes on journeys and then says, look, you're a demigod. You're in a human body, but you're a godlike being, and you've got these labors going on, right? And then they can share that information with us. So really seeing that these masculine energies lining up, Apollo, of course, very important, because the temple, talking about the shift in the masculine and feminine, Gaia was the sacred site of Delphi was Gaia's site. And there's more mythology behind it, but I'm not going to go into it right now. But then when it became really famous, there was a temple of Apollo, and the oracle would sit in the temple or in a special room in the temple and channel Apollo. And Gaia told us this needed to happen. This was a shift on the planet. This, like Lisa was talking about earlier, the energies are shifting from focused on the feminine to the masculine. And so if the story is he came across the sea and killed Gaia and then took over the site for himself, it's just showing us that the energies then went to an organized way. Now there was buildings, there was structure, there were people who could come, there was wealth that it was exchanged, that the information of the sacred feminine was distributed further and had more respect and more visibility. And now what we're doing is, then that was all, everything was shut when the Rome decided to become Christian, and they shut all these temples, and people forgot that Delphi was even there, and there were landslides and Gaia reclaimed her, and there were earthquakes, and literally this little mining town was built on top of it, these little shacks. Nobody friggin' knew it was there. And it wasn't that long ago, I think it was in the 60s, that the French team went and started to find it, and they had to literally move the town off of it and rediscover it. And now people are going back there. Why? People are walking, like we talked about, not necessarily conscious that they're walking by the original rock of the oracle that's sitting there with no sign. Next to the buildings, there was, oh, look at the building, look at the building. Did you know the oracle used to sit on this rock? Right. It doesn't matter, because it's like when the dolphins tell me, when they can get people to come and they can interact with them, they can entangle with them quantumly. Now they're connected. Now they can make a difference. Now we are more one. Now those energies can travel with you. Now those things can be. So we walk in a sacred way. And this is such a beautiful time of acknowledging, well, we're not going just to reclaim the sacred feminine. We must give it more focused. But look at that. The structure still has to be there. The other thing that I love right now is Saturn. So if you're into astrology, Lisa, Saturn in the spring, the big conversation on my spiritual weather reports, and if you watch any astrologers, was about Saturn, who's our strict structure planet. It is the strict, often the taskmaster. No, do it again. No, you can't go forward. No, you didn't get the right grade. And yet the reason for that structure is to make sure that we're equipped, we're expertise, we've finished, we've gone back, we've taken care of all of our stuff before we move forward so we can be most effective. Well, Saturn going into this whole idea of Neptune, this whole idea of pure intuitive, and going into this pure intuitive state, does that mean that structure is going to be put around intuitive sacred feminine? That was my thought. And then my friend said, no, what if respect and structure came back to the divine feminine, to the healers and the light workers and the psychics? They started to be put more on a pedestal. A structure was built for them to disseminate their information again and become revered. And that was the conversation in the spring. And then this Greece thing coming forward, and that coming up to me was like, oh, wow. The other thing that really blew my mind a minute ago, Lisa, when you said you were doing that process and you said, I always make a tripod. Mm. I don't know if you know, but the oracle always sat on a tripod. And it was very tall. Mm-hmm. And I have not found like anybody who's like, this is why, but there's a reason, right? There's a reason. And so she was like originally in the caves and then on the rock, but then when it was the temple and everything, there was a tripod, and they even have a name for it, a word for it. And it was like, I thought, why? There's a reason for that trinity or that pyramid or that like all the energetics of that are very interesting to me. So when you said that, I was like,
interesting. Yeah, I was, again, me and my sacred travel, we were in Greece about 5 years ago. my husband is part Greek, and I just can't wait to get back. Wish I could go with you this time, but love it. And we went to Delphi, and both of us, both my husband and I, were getting messages. We literally had to sit down and receive, and I wrote it down, and it was so beautiful, and very, very, very powerful sight. And then yeah, and then we went up to Meteora. Are you going up to Meteora?
We
Which is
aren't. We
amazing.
aren't. It's
Fascinating place.
what? Yes, it's quite powerful that I'm focusing on the ancient sites.
Yeah.
Of the Hellenic period, you know, of that the land of the gods. You know, when
Sure.
this was, you know, when the wisdom of the gods was merged with the humans in a way that they walked in a certain way, and we're going to, of course, awaken the light within that. These temples that were healing centers, I'd never even heard of them until this time. And I was like, the goddess Skeplius, I don't know if I remember that one. And the Epidaurus, I'm sure you went to Epidaurus, right? The famous theater, the most famous restored theater that's not far from Athens.
Right.
And but actually the main purpose of the center was it was a healing center. And it was a center to this god that started with the baths and the temple. And you went for spiritual healing. You were prepared. You came, you did your bathing and all your things before, and then you went and slept in the temple that night, and you received a direct message from him during the night. And before you entered the temple, you read the inscriptions on the walls of all the miracles of the people who've been healed before you. And like I'm learning this whole amazing process. They knew you got to get the mind in the right place, then they purified the body, right? And then they're like, you got a direct connection, right? And they took you in, and then all of his daughters are all the healing goddesses, Panacea, Hygeia, all the names for healing, and the overall healing, and healing of this kind and healing of that kind. So the primary healing pillars, that energies that were there with you, were his daughters, were the goddess energies. And then in the morning, the healers, the wise people who kept the spa, the place, they came in and you told them what you received from the god, and then they interpreted your therapy from there. And these were what turned into hospitals. These were then eventually they started adding more herbs and more of this therapy and more of that until it became, and then they're everywhere. There's even one next to the Acropolis, but it's not something very talked about. And so those are some of the amazing energies. And then it always seems to go back. It's not just, oh, this god is the god, you know, even the Apollo, and you were there at the Temple of Apollo, and he's the radiant one. He's not really the sun. He's like the radiant one that shines, but he's the god of prophecy and music and arts. There's a lot of feminine energy in there, and his sister is Artemis, so they are almost like this perfect balanced pair of masculine and feminine energies that are holding the space. And then you have, okay, the god is holding the healing temple, but then all the goddesses are coming in and holding the aspects of it inside of it. So all right, well, we better let everyone go, and have a beautiful
fun. Yes, hopefully you'll get lots of people joining you, and you
Oh,
know.
we're going to go in May, and we've got a beautiful little group of sacred people. And I knew this was jumping off the cliff for everybody. You know, I've had a lot of people who wanted to come and had different reasons. Several people didn't have a passport. I'm like, well, you're not getting a passport in 6 weeks. I know that's not happening. So get your passport now, because you might get a calling like Lisa. It's time to go to Egypt, even though it's something strange is going on, and it'll be magical, but truly magical. Everywhere I go, when somebody said, oh, you're going to have all these hassles traveling, and I go, no, not on my planet. You take that back. You put that over there in your planet. I am not going to be doing that. And I said, actually, as a Sagittarius, I sort of, travel's my thing. I love travel. So I sort of have magic guides that, you know, help me.
I'm with you. I always say I've got some of the best travel karma in the world. So thank you, Divine. All right. I love that.
All right, everyone. Namaste.
Oh, so fun.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, so I'm going to give it a minute, a few seconds here to catch up with us. There's always such a delay. Well, so much fun talking to you, sharing all these fun things. And make sure you let me know what happens in.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I love to hear all about the details. It sounds like you've got fascinating places to go and you've got so much information about all of that. It's amazing. So
It was, I have all my past life memories. I have the love I have of it. But then what really was the thing that blew my mind was as I dove into it, I was resistant at first, but it was nearly nonstop. I don't know how I got through it because I still felt okay, but it was almost like 5, 6 hours at night. I was consuming information. I'm going, well, I know I want to go to these sites, but what about that site? There's got to be a place with more goddess temples. There's got to be a place with this. Where's that? Where's this? And then I just kept going deeper and talking to more people and so on.